Today's documentary, The Buried Ledgers, Resurrection of the Hanseatic Archive. The trowel scraped against something that wasn't soil. It was March 28, 2019. In a construction pit near Lübeck's iconic St. Mary's Church, archaeologist Dr. Manfred Schneider froze. His team had been monitoring routine utility work, expecting the usual post-war debris. But this was different. Through the damp earth, he saw not brick, but a sheen of darkened leather. As he brushed the soil away, a metal clasp emerged, then another, and another. They weren't looking at a single object. They were staring at a wall of chests, stacked deliberately, silently, in a crypt of their own making, buried for 77 years. This was no ordinary find. This was a tomb for knowledge, and within it lay the ghost of an empire. Lübeck, the queen of the Hanseatic League. For over 400 years, this city on the River Trave was the beating heart of a network that redefined the world. It was not a country, but a covenant of commerce, a confederation of merchant guilds and market towns that stretched from London to Novgorod. And at the center of it all, in the soaring Gothic halls of Lübeck's town hall, scribes meticulously recorded every transaction, every treaty, every dispute, and every decree. This was the League's central nervous system, its archive. But empires fade. By the 17th century, the Hanseatic League's influence waned against rising nation-states. Yet its archive remained, a sacred relic moved for safekeeping into the vaults beneath the historic city library. Then came the night that would sever the city's soul. March 28, 1942. Not a coincidence of dates, but a cruel symmetry. It was Palm Sunday. Just before midnight, the air raid sirens wailed. Operation Pile, the RAF's first major area bombing raid on a German city, had begun. For over 3 hours, 234 aircraft dropped 300 tons of explosives and 25,000 incendiary bombs. The historic timber-framed city center, a dense maze of medieval architecture, became an inferno. St. Mary's Church, whose bells had tolled for Hanseatic merchants for 700 years, burned. The library, directly adjacent, was hit. But in the chaos of that hellish night, a desperate act of preservation took place. As the bombs fell and fire consumed the upper floors, library staff and civic officials rushed into the burning cellars. Their mission was not to save everything. That was impossible. Their mission was to save the irreplaceable core. The heaviest chests from the Hanseatic Archive were dragged into the deepest, most secure vault, a reinforced concrete chamber originally built for the city's gold reserves. They sealed the chamber, not with a lock, but with the collapsing architecture of a dying city. A direct hit caused the upper floors to pancake down, burying the vault under 20 feet of rubble. The tomb was sealed. The guardians of this knowledge likely perished, their secret dying with them. In the post-war reckoning, the archive was listed as vibrant, burned. The discovery in 2019 was not just an archaeological miracle, it was a profound shock. But the first wave of euphoria crashed against a wall of terrifying practicalities. They were in an active construction site, with deadlines and heavy machinery looming. The rubble above the vault was dangerously unstable, a precarious matrix of ruined masonry. One wrong move, and the entire cavity could collapse, crushing the chests to dust. The second challenge was time itself. These documents had survived in a perfect, anaerobic environment. A crisis team was assembled. Leading the charge was conservator Dr. Anna Kampfer, a specialist in medieval water-damaged manuscripts. Her face, upon first entering the cramped, muddy cavity, was a mask of focused dread. "We were not breathing," she later recalled. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth and old leather. And silence. It was the silence of a grave. We shone our lights, and we saw them. Dozens of chests, some split open from the pressure, with scrolls and ledger books spilling out like ancient intestines. The operation shifted from excavation to a forensic salvage mission. Each chest, each document, was painstakingly documented in situ. They were then carefully transferred to a specially prepared cooler of inert argon gas for transport to a high-security conservation laboratory. The real revelation, however, began under the gentle lights of the lab. As Dr. Kampfer and her team began the years-long process of conservation, the contents started to tell their story. One of the first documents to be partially stabilized was a 1348 trade ledger from the merchant Hildebrand Weckenhuizen. His meticulously kept records didn't just list numbers. They told a saga of overreach and desperation. They detailed loans taken out to fund ever riskier ventures. Another scroll, from 1367, was the sealed minutes of a Hanseatic, the League's parliamentary diet. It revealed furious debates about imposing a naval blockade against Norway. Then came the human voices. A water-stained parchment from 1411 contained a petition from a group of ship's carpenters in Reval, complaining their wages paid in salted herring were short-measured. The League's Central Committee had scribbled a resolution in the margin: investigate. If true, rectify. Another bundle contained Schraben, personal letters that had hitchhiked on merchant ships. A young apprentice in Lübeck writing to his mother in Dortmund, describing his terror during a storm in the Baltic. A wife in Hamburg sending a lock of her hair to her husband wintering in Bergen, pleading with him to remember her face. Perhaps the most politically explosive find was a series of diplomatic communiques from 1505. They contained detailed intelligence reports about Portuguese voyages around Africa. Lübeck merchants were not ignorant of the new sea routes threatening their overland trade monopolies. They were actively spying on them. The conservation process itself became a high-stakes drama. For Dr. Kampfer, each day was a battle against mold, gelatinization of parchment, and ink threatening to bleed. One particularly large cartulary had fused into a single, brick-like block. Using tools adapted from medical science, her team spent 8 months separating just 30 pages. The tension was relentless. A power outage in the lab could spell disaster. A fungal spore introduced on a glove could ravage a 500-year-old deed. You hold a document that no human hand has touched since a scribe put down his quill in 1450, Dr. Kampfer said. You feel the weight of that silence. As the documents slowly yielded their secrets, they began to rewrite chapters of history. The Hanseatic League was no longer just a faceless economic entity. It was a precursor to modern corporate law, with its own binding arbitration systems. It was an early European Union, with standardized weights and measures. Its meticulous records of rye prices in Danzig, correlated with weather reports from Tallinn, are now providing climatologists with invaluable data on the Little Ice Age. The buried knowledge was proving to be a multidisciplinary Rosetta Stone, offering insights into economics, law, climate science, linguistics, and daily life. The 2019 excavation was not an endpoint, but a breathtaking new beginning. The 600-plus recovered chests and bundles represent a cache that will take generations to fully analyze. The story of the Lost Library is a story of resilience, of parchment outlasting fire, of knowledge surviving the will to destroy. It is a story about the fragility and the stubborn endurance of our collective memory. The Hanseatic merchants, in their relentless pursuit of profit, accidentally created the most comprehensive archive of the medieval common world. The librarians in 1942, in an act of defiant courage, chose to bury it rather than let it burn. And the archaeologists in 2019, with their trowels and their temperance, performed a resurrection. Today, as we navigate our own era of global trade wars, economic alliances, and information threatened by decay and conflict, these voices from the rubble speak with urgent clarity. They remind us that the ledgers of the past are never truly closed. They are merely waiting, silent and patient, for the light to find them again and to teach us, once more, who we were and therefore who we are. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, please subscribe to our channel. We bring you fascinating documentaries on history, science, civilizations, mysteries, and the untold stories that shaped our world. Hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss a new release. See you in the next one.